Perfect. Well, I am going to go ahead and get started. Oops, my screen went faster than I wanted it to. Good afternoon again. My name is Kara Wilkins, and I am the director of Bank on Arkansas. And on behalf of Bank on Arkansas and the Arkansas Asset Funders Network, I'd like to welcome you to today's conversation on the Child Tax Care Credit Expansion. Launched in 2018 by the Arkansas Asset Funders Network, Bank on Arkansas is an initiative that works to ensure that all Arkansans have access to safe, trusted, and affordable banking. So they have the opportunity to save for themselves, build wealth for their families, and improve the quality of life in their communities. As the largest coalition in our state that is focused solely on financial advocacy for low to moderate income Arkansans, we partner with over 60 organizations that help us develop a vision for banking and financial health in Arkansas, as well as advocate for larger asset building strategies for low to moderate income families. Today, we've partnered with two of our coalition partners, Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families and the Arkansas Public Policy Panel, to continue a conversation about the upcoming child tax credit payments and the impact on Arkansas families. Arkansas Advocates, or AACF, has a longstanding history of working to ensure that all children and their families have the resources and opportunities to lead healthy and productive lives and to realize their full potential. They do that through providing leadership, research, and advocacy to promote wide-ranging reforms that improve the lives of children and families. The Arkansas Public Policy Panel has an equally long-standing history of advocating for social and economic justice by organizing citizen groups around the state, educating them to be more effective and powerful, and linking them with one another in coalition and networks. They are crucial and trusted partners in providing community outreach and support, particularly in the Delta region. Today, our three organizations have come together to discuss the important changes to the child tax credit, highlight how families can qualify and receive in the advanced child tax care credit payments, and emphasize the importance of awareness and outreach that needs to happen in our communities to ensure that everyone is informed about how to receive their payments. Again, I want to thank you all for joining us on this discussion to better inform the way we support working families in our state. And I want to introduce that today we will be joined by Bruno Showers, who is the Senior Policy Analyst at AACF, who will give a brief overview of the Child Tax Care Credit. Following Bruno, I will briefly discuss some of the financial implications of the Child Tax Credit payments. And sorry if I keep stumbling over child tax credit payments, it's a lot. And then we will hear from Janice El-Amin, who's the organizing director at the Arkansas Public Policy Panel, to discuss the importance of providing outreach and amplifying this information through your networks. We are recording, so a copy of this will be available on the Bank On website shortly afterwards. And before we formally turn it over to kind of start our program, I'd like to encourage you to place any questions or comments in the chat box for our later Q&A discussion. Sorry, boop. Here's the agenda. And so we will take questions towards the end. And so please feel free throughout presentations, if you have any thoughts, note them in the chat, and we will make sure to answer a few questions at that point. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Bruno, who again is going to give kind of an overview of the child tax care credits. So Bruno?
Yeah, thanks, Kara, for hosting this and inviting me to be here today. So I'll just talk about the CTC, the changes that have been made this year, and a little bit about why we at Advocates think it's so great. So first of all, the kind of big change that's made this year is the amount of the credits gone up. It's typically $2,000 is the maximum amount, but that's $3,000 this year for children 6 and up, or $3,600 for children 5 and below. Ooh. I can keep going. It makes it fully refundable for the first time. You want me to? Okay. Oh.
My internet went out. I
Well,
am gonna
Zoom.
make somebody else the host if that's okay. And then that way, if something else happens, we will go from there. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry, Bruno.
Okay. No, that's all good. Sorry everybody for letting that get me stumbled up a little bit. I'll try and get back on track. So the other big change of the credit this year is that it's fully refundable for the first time ever. Like I said, the next slide will show a little bit visually about what that means, but basically families with low income didn't receive the full credit for this year. For the first time, they will. That means that something like 94% of children in Arkansas are going to benefit from this credit expansion in some way. That's over 650,000 kids. Over 300,000 kids whose families previously didn't get the full credit are going to get the full credit this year because it's fully refundable. And that would lift almost 50,000 kids above the poverty line in Arkansas. And as we know, childhood poverty is associated with poorer health outcomes and higher rates of hospitalization. It makes it harder for kids to focus and do well in school, which makes it harder for them to go to college or to maintain, a good paying job when they're adults. So it has big implications, not just for families, but for like our whole community, our whole state here in Arkansas benefits when we can address child poverty, which these CTC expansions do. And another big change this year is the advance payments. So these are going to start next month in July. There'll be payments so when you file your tax return next year, it's going to come out of that. It's opt out. So if you would like to get the full amount next year instead of getting advance payments, you can go to the IRS website and say, don't give me advance payments. But for those that choose not to do that, the IRS is going to use your 2020 or 2019 tax return information to decide whether you're going to get automatic payments. And if you didn't file a tax return, but if you got your economic impact payment, the stimulus checks, and you claimed a dependent child and got a stimulus check for them, they'll use the information that you gave them there to do the advance payment. So right now, they have a portal for non-filers. I think we'll talk more later about what you can do in the portal on the IRS website, but they will be creating another portal called the CTC Update Portal, CTC Up for short. That will, right now, it doesn't allow you to change your information, but if, for instance, you have a change in marital status, if you have a child during this tax year that you didn't claim in previous tax returns, if you need to change your bank account information or address, you can't currently do that, but you will be able to do that soon. The IRS is still actively updating their sites. So going to that link there, or childtaxcredit.gov, will give you a lot more information about what you need to do, who might qualify. There's tons of info. But if we could go to the next slide, I did want to briefly just visually show. So as you can see there, I just kind of tried to show what in some visual demonstration of what these tax credit expansions mean for families. So as you can see, families that make below about $24,000 a year didn't get the full amount of the CTC, and people with very low incomes were excluded from the CTC payments at all in previous years. But for this year, they're fully refundable from the first dollar. So that's going to do a lot to address childhood poverty. But I don't want to portray this as simply an anti-poverty program. I mean, as you can see, families who make up to $200,000 a year are still going to benefit from these, or still do benefit from these tax credits, and people making like 140,000 are benefiting from these expansions. So I mean, like I said, 94% of kids in Arkansas are going to benefit from these tax credit expansions. Of course, people with lower incomes, that's where our interests lie. I mean, it's great that we're doing this to address child poverty for them, but it really does help like pretty much all families in Arkansas pay for the expenses that go along with raising children and developing them into full adult human beings. So I just wanted to show, visually, yes, people with lower incomes are being helped the most, but everyone benefits from this. And that's it for me, Kara. Appreciate the time, and I'm sure I can answer any questions if there are any, whenever that's appropriate.
Bruno, I appreciate you for that information. And again, we will have time for Q&A here towards the end of the presentation. So if you have any questions for Bruno, please, again, feel free to put them in the chat and we will answer them then. So briefly, I would like to talk a little bit about connecting families with child tax care credit payments. And as Bruno mentioned, sorry, I'm trying to pull together my stuff. As Bruno mentioned, you know, the tax returns filed in 2019 and 2020 will be used to calculate your eligibility. And those who didn't file will be redirected to the IRS portal that's available at irs.gov. And so what I'd like to do is actually share that screen. Sorry. Abby, can you share back host with me? And so
yes, let me figure out how to do that.
Yes. So starting on July 15th, and so those are some of the tangibles that you need to know. And through the rest of the calendar year, payments will be distributed monthly. The irs.gov page that you are seeing here is the main page that has information about advanced child tax care credits. And so if you look here, it will give you not only information about how you qualify, but it also has the link to the portal that Bruno just mentioned about non-filers and folks who didn't qualify. In addition, you do not have to receive advance payments. Families will be automatically enrolled. So unless they come here and opt out, so you have to click the unroll from advance payment link and tell the IRS that you want to hold your credits until 2022, you will receive those automatic payments. So all of that is listed here. And again, we can put that link in the chat for you all, but that is where most of that information lies in terms of what families need to do next. Another thing that is available here is a Q&A about child tax care credits, as well as a payment resources and guide. And so we're going to talk about that here a little bit later in terms of resources available. I do want to show you all that there is a schedule for the payments to come out. And so the IRS does have that, and will, there it is. And we'll show you every month when families are supposed to receive these credits. So again, if you're working with individuals who want to know, again, starting July 15th, but here is the schedule of payments for families to be able to receive those dollars. And, you know, one of the things that I'm going to stop sharing for a moment. One of the things that we wanted to share today is once those automatic payments begin, the fastest way to get an advance payment is to provide the financial information that was either included on your tax records to your financial accounts. And so for most families, that would be direct deposit into a banking account. You can also use a prepaid debit card, and you can also use a mobile app. And so I will not proclaim to know all of the ways that you can put that information in, but those are 3 ways that the IRS has said that families can receive their payments: is the bank account, prepaid debit card, and or a mobile app. You just need to be able to provide routing and account numbers. So most of that links back to a bank account. And because we know that Arkansas families are facing various financial challenges right now, particularly as we're slowly emerging out of the pandemic, we understand the importance of connecting families to their money quickly and safely. And one way to do that is by opening a certified Bank On account, which is a low-cost checking account that families have the ability to manage their money remotely, and that includes receiving the government benefits securely. And so I do want to show you all really quickly on the Bank On website, we do have information where families can open accounts. Some of the benefits for Bank On accounts include that you have no overdraft fees. And so again, they are a safe way for families who may be unbanked or underbanked in order to get them their money quickly in a safe way. A Bank On account could be able to do that. They have prepaid cards, so families will receive access to an actual debit or credit card. So the importance of that is we know with the economic impact payments that sometimes families received either a paper check or they received a debit card. And that debit card was a loadable debit card that came directly from the IRS. If families, for some reason, and we have not, as far as I know, gotten any guidance on how families who do not have a bank account are going to receive these child tax care credit payments. But if we're going off of what we saw with the economic impact payments, families can either receive a check or a prepaid card that comes from the government. That card or those checks take longer to process. And not only that, if a family loses that money or is not able to cash that check or have some other issues, then they're not going to be able to be connected to their money. And so again, these certified accounts offer all of the benefits that you see here. So again, you get the prepaid debit card. They have a low monthly minimum of $5 or less. They have free unrestricted banking services, so online services, so families can check and make sure that their payments have come on time and that they've received them. But the biggest thing about Bank On is, again, the no overdraft fees. It makes the account safe, it makes the account affordable, and so families can get their money quickly. So the other great thing is Arkansas offers 14 different banks who partner with us, and you can see them here, who offer a version of a certified Bank On account. And so you'll see the names of the specific accounts underneath each bank. So if you do go into a bank, you can print off this flyer and give it to your clients and or individuals that you work with to help them know which account to ask for. Some of these accounts can be opened online, but some of them you do need to go into the bank, and that is listed on our Bank On website. But it offers families choice. So if families are not wanting to be with a traditional banking institution, but would like a credit union, we do have credit unions who also offer Bank On accounts. We also have some smaller banks that are located in more rural communities. So as we're talking about families and access and those who are able to get into a bank, there are a variety of options that are included, that are located here centrally in Central Arkansas, but across the state that families can get connected to. And so we also know, as part of the American Families Plan that has been presented by President Biden, there is talk about extending these child tax care credit payments. And so we want to make sure that folks understand that this is not a flash in the pan. We've seen with the economic impact payments, and now we're seeing with the child tax credit payments, that this is something that Arkansans and Americans are moving towards in terms of talking about how do we help connect folks to universal income assistance. So it is important for us to start to get families integrated into the mainstream financial systems. So if these child tax care credits continue on in 2022, 2023, and 2024, families are getting their money, they're getting it quickly, they're getting it safely through these accounts, and they're also building wealth, they're building strategies, they have a place for them to be able to connect them into, again, the banking system. So I am going to stop sharing my screen, but I will put links in the chat here in a moment for not only the Bank On website, but also our resources page, which again will be updated with child tax care credit information here momentarily. And with that, I am going to turn it over to a variety of folks at the Arkansas Public Policy Panel, led by Janice El-Amin, to talk a little bit about the importance of connecting families to this information through outreach. So Janice?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The first thing I want to say, Kara or either Abby, we have someone in the waiting room that's wanting to get on. If somebody can check that out. I thought Bill would be on to be speaking today, and I see he's not. So what I will say in my remarks will be brief, is that this child tax care program is designed to help families raising children with, we know how vital that is in our communities. We want to just see this program help these families to make the ends meet, to advance. I was just reading that it has been estimated that this program actually has the potential to cut child poverty in half. That's huge in our communities. That is huge. This problem is definitely felt in South Arkansas and also even around the state. Everyone is affected by child poverty. These tax credit payments could actually change lives in our communities. They could bring some of our kids out of this institutional poverty they're locked in. And the long-term effects could just be incredible. So I just feel like we need to take this vital information. We are going to be sharing it in all of our communities. We are asking all of our leaders who are on, take this information, share it with someone that you know. We all know somebody with children who are in poverty, so we definitely need to be sharing it. And also, I want us to share the information from Bank On Arkansas. That flyer, Kara, if you could send us that flyer, we're going to be definitely getting that out. Most of our people in our communities, a lot of them, that they have Cash App cards, they have debit cards, Walmart cards, but they don't have bank accounts growing, investing for their children. And with that, Bill's not on, so I'm gonna turn it back over to you, Kara.
No, thank you for that, Janice. And so one of the things that Janice touched on is there are a variety of resources that have been pulled together by people smarter than myself and Bruno and Janice that are available for you all to link into in terms of flyers about the child tax credit payments, as well as just other informational blurbs. And so there are various ways that people can get information out. Yes, Arkansas Advocates has some information. We know that recently the federal government had a child tax credit awareness day, and they have some materials available that we can also share out. But I really also just want to say, you know, the payments start on July 15th. And so we have a few days, 2 or 3 weeks, for us to really be letting families know that they are going to receive these payments. Again, if they want to opt out, you know, connecting them back to the IRS website, which I've put a link in the chat. And then also, just to Janice's point, help spread the word. You know, if you are going to have webinars with your individual organizations over the next few weeks, see if you can build in a small time to just talk a little bit about the child tax credit payments that are coming down the pipeline. Or if you're on another webinar with another group, as we're starting to reemerge and reopen, if you're going to be, you know, out in the community at churches or other events that will be happening in Arkansas, you know, we will have some information that you can download and print and take out with you. And just, again, use social media, and we will be putting up some posts. I know that Arkansas Advocates has already put up some posts, and we have put up some posts through Bank On Arkansas. but we will continue over the next 2 weeks to really push out materials to let people know that on the 15th, they will be receiving this payment. And so please share that information, tweet it, send it out, and make sure that other people are aware that this is happening and that resources are coming. So with that, oh, go ahead, Bruno, sorry.
May I add something just real quick, Kara? Thank you. Sorry to interject. I just wanted to add on to what you're saying and emphasize something. A lot of people will get payments automatically, but the people that are going to miss out, we kind of know their demographics, or we know some of their characteristics. They're going to be more likely to be homeless, or more likely to be on SNAP or Medicaid, not to have stable income. And also many of them will be from mixed status immigrant families, many of whom don't have great English language skills. So in particular, when you're thinking about your outreach, think about how you can try and reach those groups and those communities who many of them who need the most help are struggling the most and being the most likely to miss out. We really want to pay special attention to them. And sorry for interrupting.
No, you didn't interrupt. Thank you for that. Absolutely. So with that, I am going to move into Q&A. If anyone has any questions or wants to come off of mute, you can unmute yourself at this time. Or if you have any questions that you'd like to put in the chat, we are happy to entertain those.
Kara, this is Toyce Newton, and I'm excited about the opportunity that this presents to families. This is just, a paradigm shift in terms of what families will have available to them in terms of choices to be able to redirect their lives and to start histories of banking. I served here in Crossett on the bank board, and clearly that the challenges that the population that we're talking about face in terms of traditional banks. And I remember one of the things that would happen the tax credits in the old world is that literally the ATM machines would run out of money during this period when people were constantly withdrawing. But to introduce an idea through your affiliation with your company and introducing them to partners, individuals to partners who will now have a different focus and a different concept and a different way of looking at I won't say building wealth now, because I think it's a little early to build wealth, but just changing systematic behaviors that have created problems along and understanding systems. So, I think that once a year, to the option of having an opportunity to draw it over a period of time will certainly present opportunities for the banking community to look at the clients that we serve in a different way, and an opportunity to come in with some power and to demand some respect. So I'm just really, really happy about it. My history in Southeast Arkansas has been in connection with community-based programs primarily. And so I think it's incumbent upon my agency, the agency I was affiliated with and works on with now, Phoenix Youth and Family Services, and like agencies around the state, to be able to pass out the education. We know our communities better than anyone knows our communities. We know our folks, and they know and trust us. So it's imperative that we reach out to every institution in our community, every individual, every group, every leader, every non-leader, to say, this is what's available, and this is the opportunity to change the way we've done things, to change the way that you conduct your business, and to add value to yourself as a family and as the resource you present to the community. So this is a wonderful opportunity, but unless and until we get the word out and develop a system where we're constantly infusing, media, the social media is fine, and I certainly struggle with it some, but at the same time I access it. But it's not something that we can depend on to get the message out. There is a suspicion and a fear and a lot of other things based on just the fact of the no insufficient fund fees. That wipes out the opportunity to change the trajectory for families. So just having people to really believe that I can actually put my money into an account and it won't disappear because I've had some prior business relationships that hadn't worked in the past. So this is tremendous. This is huge. It is a way to establish fidelity, credibility, and power, and pass it on to your children, as opposed to having to wait to January, February. You get a lump sum, you make good decisions, you make some bad decisions, but in the midst of all of it, it's gone. But you'll have a chance over a period of time to say, I didn't do this as well as I had planned to, but next month and the next month, I'm going to do better. And having that reflected in your children. And hopefully, out of that comes all of that. We talk about financial literacy. This is a piece of it for somebody to grab. I don't know exactly, so Athens or whoever, but somebody somewhere to say this is an opportunity that may pass with political affiliation. I don't know, but at the same time, to be introduced to something that you've never had, or be offered a taste of something that we've never had as a community before. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much for that, Ms. Newton. And I appreciate all of your comments. Ms. Newton is an institution across Arkansas, but particularly South Arkansas. So I thank you, because you have gotten some people to think about what they wanted their question to be. And so we appreciate that. And I do want to really quickly, before I start getting to some of these questions in the chat, I want to reiterate Mrs. Newton's point that, we will be doing our piece on social media, but there will be printable information that we will encourage you all to please print and take with you, or pass out or hand out for families, because you are absolutely right. We want to make sure that some of our most vulnerable Arkansans are the ones that sometimes get missed in this conversation. So thank you so much for all of your comments. I know we started getting some questions in the chat, and we do want to get to those. And so, Bruno, we have a question about, what about individuals who have a child after July 15th? And so obviously that will impact kind of, their payments and their credits. Can they get the monthly payments, or just claim the child in 2022?
So it's up to the filer, but so right now you will miss out on the first payment, obviously. But once the IRS updates their portal, you will be able to update your information, such as if you have any children during the year, and at that point you will start getting payments. Also, I've heard, don't quote me on this 100%, but from my understanding, what they're going to do is it's going to be prorated. So say that there's supposed to be 6 payments and you miss 3 of them. There's going to be each payment's going to be like double what it would have been. So you'll still end up getting half this year, even if you don't get all 6 payments. It'll be paid out, prorated.
That is great information, Bruno, because I didn't even know that. So that's good to know. And so we had another question from Amanda. If someone has not gotten their third EIP, but the IRS has banking information, is that going to affect receiving the CTC on time? So no, as far as we know. So the EIP and the CTC are connected in the same system through the IRS, not in terms of the payments, but in terms of how they're getting the money out, right? So if you haven't gotten the third EIP, then that may affect in terms that would affect you getting your CTC. So what I would say is, if that person has not received their third economic impact payment, they may want to go to IRS website. There is a check your status kind of portal. And if the IRS doesn't have your information, you can either put it in on the IRS webpage, or you can put it in here on the child tax credit page. And then that should flag them to get your information, and then make sure that you get the EIP and the child tax care credit. But I would say, if someone hasn't received, they're using the same system. So if you haven't received one, then yeah, you would probably want to check and see what was going on with your with the other, so that they won't impact each other. Jesse had a question about child tax care credit payments and the tax credits for child care. Jesse, can I ask you to come off mute, and I want to make sure I'm asking this question. There you go.
Sure. Yeah, so and they may be the exact same thing, but I know today we're talking about the child tax credit, but there's also in the news tax credits for childcare, like you can use FSA dollars and apply those to childcare. And I'm wondering if the two benefits are linked at all, or how we can get families it's just a little confusing, and I'm trying to learn how to explain to families all of the benefits that they can get if they have children. So,
Yeah,
that's
I understand that question. And that's, yeah, no, you're making sense. So there's like two programs I think you're talking about. We're talking about the CTC, which is the child tax credit. There's also the CDCTC, which is the child development and care tax credit, something like that. They are essentially two separate programs. Obviously, there'll be a lot of overlap in who benefits, but whether or not you get the CTC doesn't impact your CDCTC eligibility, and vice versa. So we're going to release some materials closer to next year or later in the summer about the CDCTC stuff, but we don't have a lot of information about that yet, just because people aren't filing their taxes for 2021 yet.
Okay, that is helpful. Thank you so much.
Somebody in the chat said, thank goodness Bruno knows the acronyms. And yes, I agree. Thank goodness. The next question was about Bank On and how do we bridge, connect with families who are underbanked because of trust, and any tips to help folks who are reluctant to opening a banking account. Thank you for that, Jesse. So I want to talk a little bit about our coalition just very briefly. And so Bank On does work with nonprofit partners across the state through our Bank On coalition. We really rely on them to be the trusted partners and to say, can you connect us with families and help us talk about the importance of Bank On accounts, and then help explain some of the details in terms of the no overdraft fees, the $5 monthly minimum, the access to the debit and credit card, as well as the access to online capabilities so that they can check and monitor their accounts. And so, we really rely on you all. And I think Janice and Ms. Choice kind of talked about that a little bit ago, which is, the nonprofit partners are really the way that we're going to be able to help connect with these families. I'm also thinking that some of these families, because they have received the economic impact payments in waves, I think they are starting to understand the importance of having something so that they can get the money quicker. One of the reports that came out around after the second economic impact payment showed that Americans in general spent over $60 million in terms of check cashing fees and alternative ways for folks to get their economic impact payments. And that doesn't have to be the case. And that's not as much of an issue here in Arkansas, but it is still an issue. And so we really just want to express the importance of families, because if you're getting these monthly payments, but you're getting them in a check, or you're getting them on a government issued debit card, which again, may come quickly, may not. I think someone in the chat just talked a little bit about if people still haven't received their third economic impact payment, right? So we have just really been trying to work with our nonprofit partners to help people to understand, you want to get these payments on time, you want to get them, on the dates that were listed on that IRS website, and opening these bank accounts, these safe, affordable Bank On accounts, is a way to do it. And knowing that you can't overdraft on them is really kind of the key important messaging, because I know that a lot of families, the distrust comes from having been in the banking industry and probably having incurred fees and, going into overdrafts and then having to pay that back and that becoming cyclical. So we really want to encourage folks. And so I will put that flyer here back in the chat, but it's also available on the Bank On website. And someone else asked if the flyers will be available in Spanish and other languages. It is available in Spanish in terms of the Bank On flyer. There are also some materials about the child tax credit payments itself that are also available in Spanish. And so we will link to that. We are still working on a Marshallese version because I know I have some of my Marshallese friends here on the call. So we will try to move that quickly and get something for you all so that that can also be distributed. So I did want to highlight that. So there was a question about newborns that are born before July 15th. And so Bruno, can I give that one back over to you? And there are one or two questions. I'm going to link some information in the chat for you just because I want to make sure that, you know, we can get to as much as we can. Go ahead, Bruno.
Yeah, so it's the same issue. You'll still miss out on payments until the IRS updates their portal for you to put in information that wasn't on your previous tax return or that wasn't on your non-filer tool if you did it that way. So I've been hearing that we'll be lucky if they get this up by August. So it'll probably still be a while. You may miss out on a couple of payments. And I don't think that there's a good answer for you, except you're going to have to wait. Like I said, the silver lining is that you're not actually going to miss out on any money. You'll just have to wait a couple months and they'll still give you, you're not going to like miss out on 2 months of payments this year. But yeah, you just have to wait for the IRS to update their tool.
Thank you, Bruno. Somebody asked a question about divorced parents. And so I just want to be clear that, you know, we are not full experts in this. We are learning along the way, but I have seen some thoughts on the IRS portal and some rules and regulations there. So I did, for Gregory Hayes, who asked a question about divorced parents who may be claiming the child every other year, I did put some of that information in the chat. It is available on that IRS webpage. They do go through kind of a breakdown of, you know, how you receive your payments, and they do address issues like that. So I do encourage you to go over there and they can provide you some further guidance, but they have thought through that in terms of how, informing parents on what they should do when they share the child on their taxes. So thank you for that. Bruno, do you know a little bit more about how families access tax credits if they've moved or if they're homeless, in terms of, you know, getting that prepaid card or the mailing card? I can kind of address the middle part of that, Raina, which is, yes, if they have a bank account on file, then the money will go to the bank account regardless of their living status. So they just would need to be able to have access to that bank account. But Bruno, do you have any guidance on if someone has moved?
So this is why I think the outreach is so important, because we don't have a good answer as to what's going to happen here, except that homeless people are at risk of missing out on payments more than other groups are because of their uncertain status. So I would just say that the best thing we can do is trying to reach people, you know, organizations, you know, that work with the homeless community, and just letting them know what's going on, so that, yeah, and providing them internet access, by the way, because the easiest way to update this kind of information is online. And obviously that's a challenge if you're homeless as well. So just trying to provide tools, resources, and information is the best answer I have for you. I don't think that there's a good solution built into the system.
And then just a quick follow-up to that. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought as y'all were talking. If it comes back to me, I'll ask it. Sorry.
No, you're good, Raina. And I just wanted to touch on one of Bruno's points. So yes, connecting with partners like CALS and other folks who have access to free computers is key and critical at this point, because to Bruno's point, the way that you update everything is to be online. So if you are in the community and you are a provider that is able to allow people to use your internet, having this information and you know, up on your computer kiosk and other places could be helpful for families who need to come in and update. So as their moving status may shift, or their living situation may be different, they can still access payments in some way.
I remembered what the question was.
Go ahead,
And
Verna.
did y'all mention the portal is not currently up and might not be up for a couple more months, so might miss out on the first few payments? Did I hear that correctly?
I think basically, yes, there's two portals. There's one for people who don't file taxes, and that is up. So if they're a non-filer, then you can ensure they get their first payment. If they are a filer, if they filed, or then yeah, we're still waiting for that portal to be fully functional. Right now, you can only opt out of payments, but they will update that to allow you to update information as well. Like I said, hopefully by August is what I'm hearing.
Kara, I think we're preaching to the choir here, but I want us to be mindful that this is going to be a challenge. As wonderful as it is and the opportunity that it presents, we're going to have an added responsibility times 10 to make sure that folks don't get frustrated with the portal that's not up or the payment that doesn't come, because this is a population oftentimes of folks that just disconnect. Well, Toysia told me this, but it didn't happen like that. But we've got to be persistent and ensuring that we keep going and going, and whatever angle, whether it's your own Wi-Fi or it's your students' Wi-Fi, or your kids' Wi-Fi, whatever it takes, because ultimately everybody benefits, including young people going to school or getting ready for whatever the situation is. This opportunity presents a win-win for us to do. So we can, the bureaucracy of it all is certainly frustrating for us. But when we look at the populations that we're often, are trying to impact, it's worse than that. So we want to make sure that our population is not discouraged or not saying, I tried it once, it didn't work, but we've got to keep pushing and pushing, because who knows where it goes into a deep dark hole if somebody doesn't get it. And dealing with challenges with local banks or partners or whatever, because these are not the clients that they expect to walk in their door. The benefit is the same, whether it's their money, someone else's money, but just the whole intimidation and the fear of interacting with systems, it has to be something. So we have to develop partnerships that our agency doesn't necessarily have this as a mission, but we do have a mission of trying to increase the capacity of families to be able to move forward. So in line with that, it's our responsibility and our duty and our obligation to do all those things that help make that so, or to tie in with individual organizations that do that. But this is a travesty. It's a blessing, certainly, and an opportunity, and if you'd say a windfall. But it's also the tragedy of it all if one or two children or families go without connecting, and we can't reach them, and as a result of that, it goes into that dark hole place and never to emerge.
Agreed.
Or a failure to say so the politicians could say, well, we tried it, and those folks are not motivated to do it. We kind of figured they wouldn't be for whatever reason, but historically, we've got to overcome barriers that we ourselves have overcome to get to where we are oftentimes ourselves, because we just know that it's just not easy. So just remember, it's not easy, and we're going to need all of us to, to pitch in and help each other.
Agreed, 1,000,000%. Thank you, Ms. Newton. You are spot on. And I do agree that, and Bruno has touched on this as well. This is emerging information. That's one reason why we wanted to have this webinar, was to kind of point people in the right direction and let people know kind of where to go to get more information and resources. But some parts of it, are still being developed by some of our systems and institutions. So, we want to give you guys as much guidance as we have, but acknowledging exactly to Ms. Toyce's point that there are some pieces of it that are going to, be a little slower moving, maybe a little frustrating, but it is imperative that families do not leave these dollars on the table. It is for them, and we are in the midst of an economic recovery, and wherever the next iteration of COVID may go, with the new strains that are coming out, it could be that we're back in quarantine, or we have to go back through another shutdown. So again, this money is imperative, and it's important for families to access it and get it, and then be able to use it in the way that best financially benefits them. I want to go back really quickly for our last question to kind of wrap up talking about SNAP, because there have been 1 or 2 questions about if this is going to impact your SNAP or disability benefits. And so I'm gonna turn that back over to my friend Bruno to ask if there's any guidance on that.
So traditionally, refundable tax credits like the EITC and CTC don't count again. So it definitely isn't going to count as income for SNAP. So you shouldn't be worried about that for disability or SNAP getting over the income limit because of these. With the asset limit, which most states don't have, but Arkansas does, so you can't have a certain amount in your bank account. It should be excluded for a while. And I'm assuming that most families aren't just going to be able to sit on the money. I mean, this is going to people who really need to use it to raise their kids and pay expenses and stuff. But there is a chance that after a certain amount of time in your account, that would count against you for the asset limit on SNAP. So that is something worth keeping in mind, but I need to find out more information in terms of timelines and stuff like that. So I apologize. I don't have the total answer right now.
Thank you for that question, though. It's very important to Bruno's point. You know, we know that in Arkansas, we are facing those asset limit issues. And so we want to make sure that families are still receiving all of the benefits that they are qualified for and are supposed to receive. So we are coming up on the hour, and I just wanted to recap a few things. One, I just wanted to reiterate that the child tax credit payments are starting on July 15th. We cannot say that enough. So please let families know if they have filed in 2019 or 2020, they will likely be receiving a payment in their bank account on July 15th. So if someone says, I don't know where this money came from, am I supposed to give it back, or what am I supposed to do with it? It is yours. Again, the IRS does have a web page available. I will relink that here, where it has all of the information about the advanced child tax credit payments. I will get it one day, you guys. Again, they will automatically be deposited unless the family opts out, and there is a link on that page if someone says, I want to hold all of my payment until 2022. If someone has not filed, they can go to that same page and click the portal so they can update their information so that they will begin receiving these payments. And then the last thing is that on bankonarkansas.org, and as well as on the Arkansas Advocates page that has been linked in the chat, we will be continuously updating with resources, printable materials, and information that folks can deploy out to your networks. And that is really what we're asking you to do today, is please take a look at these resources. And if you send out emails, if you go to, again, in-person events, and you can print off materials, if you will share on social media, we really just want people to understand that they do qualify for these payments. And if they haven't received their other financials, there are ways that they can go back and go through these systems in order to get that money. And then we want them to just be informed that it is aware that it's coming down the pipeline, it is available to them, and that they need to receive it. So if you have any more questions, we will again have a video. This is being recorded, so we will have this available up on bankonar.org in hopefully the next few days, along with the updated resources. We will also get this over to Arkansas Advocates so they can put it on their page, and the Arkansas Public Policy Panel so they can put it on their page. So if you need to go back and listen to the information again, you can have it, and or you can share this with your networks as well. And with that, I want to thank you all so much for joining us today. I appreciate you and all of your thoughts, and you all being partners in the community to help us get this word out. And let's be talking about the child tax credit payments and making sure that folks are aware and that they get them. Thank you all.